to stop corruption, it must start with us. And, let's stop pointing fingers. So when we open our phone lines today, oh, please, you should help my career. Call in and share your comments, send your messages. Let us hear what you have to say about this topic. But first, we'll run off on a break. When we come back from that break, we want to see what we found in today's news. All right, thanks for staying with us. World Diabetes Day is observed on November 14th every year. It was established by the International Diabetes Federation and the World Health Organization in response to the growing concerns about the health, social, and economic implications of diabetes. Now, the date is significant as it marks the birthday of Sir Frederick Banting, who co-discovered insulin in 1922. The day aims to raise awareness about diabetes, promote education, and encourage advocacy for better diabetes care and prevention. Now, each year, a specific theme is chosen to focus on different aspects of diabetes management and, of course, prevention. Various activities, including health screening, educational programs, and community events, are organized worldwide to highlight the importance of addressing diabetes as a global health issue. Personally, I have a few people that are close to home that are, battling diabetes, and I know it's not particularly an easy thing to do. But there's one thing I have observed when it comes to managing diabetes. There has to be a very high level of discipline. You cannot you can't just do things the way you feel like doing it. Because diabetes is a direct correlation to, so, like, the people that are managing it, that they've been diagnosed to have especially type 2 diabetes. There are some food that should not even be on your plate. There are some things you should not do, some habits you should quit, and all of those things. I mean, if you are disciplined enough, you'll be able to manage it. It's not a what do they call it? It's not a terminal illness. Of course, it can lead to death. Some people even get amputated because of certain kinds of complications that comes as a result of diabetes. But it's not a death sentence. It can be managed, but it has to be managed with a very, very high level of what's it called, discipline. And I feel like if I'm talking to you out there, if you're managing diabetes, some things should not be on your at all within your radar. Things like smoking, alcohol, starchy food. I mean, there are so many healthy options these days that you could do with and manage the illness. The famous Jonas Brothers, the one that is married to the Indian Priyanka, I think that's Nick Jonas. He's managing and he's doing well. He's very healthy. He's managing diabetes. So it's not a death sentence. So please, if you or any loved one that is managing or being diagnosed with diabetes, encourage them. All they need to do is just reprogram their mind and become a lot more disciplined. Yeah, and you manage it better. All right, so tonight, right, I want to bring so many stories that I found in the news. Because I'm alone, I have the luxury to tell a lot of stories. The first one I would want to take is a story that was really, really sad, because I think I also experienced that. In my final year in university, for those that do not know, I actually failed one of my very important courses because I carry man for head. I failed one of my important courses, but because my lecturers had seen the grades, they had seen my grades and they had seen how well I was doing, then there was no point for me to be having an extra year just because of one course. So that course was upgraded to, I think, a D, just to allow me graduate. So I can relate with this story that I'm about to share. That's attempted suicide. OAU considers waiver for extra year students. Now, according to this report, right, apparently a student in 200 level who had been struggling academically attempted suicide, and because of that, the school is becoming a lot more proactive, and they're saying that they are committing to assist extra year students that are struggling with their studies by considering a waiver for them. I think this is a good move because it's not everybody that is, meant to, what's it called, to fail. Sometimes circumstances, like me, I was going through a very, very terrible heartbreak. I'd never experienced it before in my life before, and I walked into something that I was not expecting, and that thing just completely crushed me. So I couldn't even read. I was in the hall, I was trying to read, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And eventually, I failed that course as it should be because I was not prepared for the exam. And of course, based on my track record and based on the result I had had previously, I had not had a carryover. The lecturer, of course, then said, no, you can't, because of one course, get a carryover. So circumstances happen, things happen, and especially with the economic situation and how things are getting tighter and tighter by the day, it's important for us to understand that, there are certain concessions that need to be done. So I like the proactive approach that the registrar, Miss MS Oluwajoba, has said that they would try as much as possible, to start to consider waivers for students that are being put out for extra years, and I think that is a very, very fantastic move. So I'll move on quickly to the next story. My able governor, Okpebolo. Okpebolo says, I met a dead bat on my bed. So according to this report, this was in a statement when he was giving his Thanksgiving speech, and he said that he wants to thank God. He wants to thank, of course, the people that supported him, and he also thanked the people that were constantly praying, that everything that he has achieved according for this gubernatorial poll has been by the grace of God. That imagine that on the day of the elections, that when the victory was announced, by the time he got back to his house, he met a dead bat on his bed, and and without him throwing or shooting arrows, I said, but hey, but he threw some jabs because he was now throwing shades at the other people. So while they were busy on television, you remember there was that back and forth about television that his media people said there was no need for him to talk to any press because the core people that needed to hear what he had to say, he was already talking to them, going to different local government areas, talking to the people on the streets, the communities and all of that. Eventually we can say that in the end, maybe his strategy worked. We don't know yet if what's his name is going to probe or take the case to court, and let us see if, of course, it was a fair and free election. So, but he was just giving thanks to God and throwing shades to his people that were not winning. So this last story is actually very scary and it's very painful. Abuse is never something that you want to ever wish, even on your enemies. And I thought to mention this, that Justin Wilby, the Africa reacts to the resignation and, of course, the abuse scandal. So according to the report, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justice Wilby, resigned this week, days after a damning report into the abuse at Christian camps by John Smith. Now, a man closely associated with the church. According to this report, between 1970 to 1980, right, this particular Smith guy, abused a lot of boys, right? He was a British barrister who abused boys he met at that summer camp. And he is said to have subjected the victims to traumatic physical abuse, psychological abuse, and spiritual attacks. Now, Smith would take pupils to his home near the Winchester and carry out lashings with a garden cane in his shed. It said that 8 of the boys received a total of 14,000 lashes. This is ridiculous. And you would think that these things are the things that happen in Africa. But no, it's everywhere. There are bad people everywhere. So it says, while 2, about 8,000 between them, claims that his actions were not reported to the police until 2013. More than 30 years later. See the power of abuse? You can't even speak about it because you are forced to stay silent. So Smith then moved to Zimbabwe and later South Africa, where he abused up to 100 boys, aged 13 to 17. He is believed to have continued his abuse in South Africa until his death. That is a wicked man. Very, very wicked man. So because of this report now, the Archbishop of Canterbury has resigned. which is supposed to be, and I think he should also be, be questioned, be prosecuted, because these things happened under his watch, And in case you're wondering, of course, they said this Smith guy, John Smith, was a barrister, and he was considered to be the most prolific serial abuser connected to the Church of England. This is wickedness. All right, so on that note, we'll take a break, right? When we come back from that break, we'll have a conversation around Governor Okowa. Stay with us, we'll be right back.